is so good to have you here.
Thank you, Mary. I'm delighted to be back.
So anybody who has joined us already is going to be able to see our diving in deep here with Sandra Angelo. So we'll be going live in just, I think we've got 3 minutes till the top of the hour. So we're just going to hang around and chat briefly about drawing and our mutual love of drawing before we get started with the Facebook Live. So if you're joining us later on the recording, I'm here today with Sandra Angelo in California, in San Diego, right?
Yes, it's 75 and sunny today. I know you don't want to hear that.
It's not too bad where I am. I'm in Southeast Georgia, and it's about 65 out there today.
That's good.
Yeah, that's chilly for this time of year. We're having a cold front coming through, and so everybody is having a fainting spell about there being a freeze tonight. So it's kind of funny for anybody who's from a little bit further north. So
yeah, we've all had our down jackets out because it rained a couple times.
Yeah, I have a friend who lives in Northern California. I was talking about the rain, and I'm going, it's just rain. It's rain. Put a rainbow.
I know. It actually hailed here. So that was a very big deal.
Yeah.
You know, we don't even have a chance to talk about weather on the elevator. There's nothing to talk about. But we finally had some rain, so we had something to talk about.
Yeah, California is finally coming out of the drought state. So
yeah.
So I think I'm gonna go in and just tell it to manually start.
Okay.
So that we can just dive on in. And that should do it. So we should be live now. So if you're joining us live on Facebook today, so glad to have you here. I am being joined by my friend out in California, Sandra Angelo. And Sandra is a specialist in pencil, in particular, colored pencil. And she is here today to answer the number one question that she gets, which is the best paper, which is the best colored pencil to work with if you're going to draw in a way that really takes advantage of the medium. So before we dive into that totally, Sandra, could you tell us a little bit more about your background for those who've not met you before here?
Well, Mary, I'm so excited to be back today. I love being in your group. It's so active and so energetic, and everybody's so kind to one another. And I just love that support that you get for every medium. You know, every medium is valued and everybody is kind in their contributions, and it's just wonderful. And so I felt really accepted as a colored pencil artist. But something that people don't know about me is that when I started my art career, I was really bad. I was literally so bad that when I called my mom to say, hey, Mom, I found out you can major in art, she said, oh, no, honey, that's not a good idea. So, I mean, I was so bad I hadn't made it to her fridge, you know. So, so I was pretty pitiful when I started. And the way that I got started was I took 2 years in college, 2 years of art, and got my art degree in teaching. But I was by no stretch of any imagination good. And so I tried and struggled to be self-taught with books and videos and things like that, and little workshops here and there, but there just wasn't any improvement. And so I ended up querying the top magazines, the Artist Magazine and American Artists. And I said, is there any chance you would let me write about colored pencil masters? And they said yes. And so I began to interview all the top masters in the United States and in the world. And then I started flying them to San Diego to teach workshops so that I could learn their techniques, and then they could correct me, because if you don't know what you're doing wrong, you never get better. And so I started apprenticing with these masters, and my work just took off like a rocket. And I ended up being #1 in the drawing category and the #1 art website. I started winning top awards, lucrative commissions, and stuff like that. So that's kind of the journey that I want to share with some of your people today. If they've always been curious about colored pencil, but they kind of think they can't do it, I'm exactly like that. So I know that roadmap. I can show you my roadmap so you can take yourself from amateur to amazing, and it can happen pretty fast.
Yeah, yeah. It can happen incredibly quickly. What is the real key, do you think, to going, let me see if I can double check and make sure the stream is running. What do you think is the real key to being able to make that big leap?
Well, it starts with, for me, it started with seeing what the possibilities are. I looked at the colored pencil, and it can look like photorealism, it can look like impressionism, it can look like a watercolor, it can look like airbrush, it can look like pastels. And I'd been working with all those media, but I had allergic reactions and headaches from the toxicity, and it wasn't portable, and there was just a lot of disappointments in other media. I liked it, but I couldn't get the look that I was after. So that's how I fell in love. I just saw, wow, look at all these things that pencils can do. And I love to draw. So I like
Mhm.
that precision of the pencil, that I can control where it's going instead of my paint. Impressionists call splashing happy accidents. There's no happy accidents for realists. We wanted to
Yeah.
stay where we put it. So I fell in love with what you could do with it, and that it was portable, and it was non-toxic, and it's inexpensive, and it's so versatile. And that was really the key for me, was just falling in love with what it can do. And then the second key was, instead of spending 10 more years, I had spent a decade trying to figure it out. Instead of spending 10 years experimenting, I just went to the masters because they've already done the experimenting. And so I literally, within months of being really bad, I was doing this international symposium, and I was hiding my art under the table because I knew it wasn't as good as the masters. And I even heard them privately laughing at my art in the other room. It was painful. But the next year, I was as good as them, and they were all threatened by me. And I
Mhm.
was landing top awards and lucrative commissions because they shared their secrets. So that's the way to go, get really good really fast, is to just skip your experimentation and learn how the masters did it.
Yeah, yeah, so that you can bypass the um, trial and error period.
Yeah, which is torturous. It's so
Yeah, it can
disgusting
be.
to look at your paper and realize that it just looks mediocre. It's really annoying. I like to be really good at what I do.
Yeah, yeah. Let's dive right on into that number one question. What is the best paper? What's the best pencil to use?
Okay,
What do you like to use?
this is a great question that I get asked, and I usually get people upset when I answer it because I always say it depends. It's kind of like asking a chef, what spice do you use? And then you have to say, are you making cinnamon rolls? Or are you making barbecue? Are you making a bundt cake, or are you frying eggs? The pan's going to change, the spices are going to change, the recipe's going to change based on what you want to do. And so there isn't one answer. It depends
Right.
on what you want to get. Even if you're drawing a cat, you might not necessarily use the same paper. For peanut butter, I used a brown paper because I wanted his white fur to pop. Let's see if we can show
Oh
peanut
yeah, let
butter.
me see if
See?
I can.
An unwilling participant. But then somebody else who's drawing a black cat might do it on a black paper. And if you want your work to pop off the paper, you might use black, but black can also be used for subtle. And if you want your colors to be very bright and vivid, it's good to work on white, because white doesn't saturate the colors. Remember, colored pencils made out of wax, which is transparent. So the
Right.
paper is going to be a factor. And so one of the things that I teach in my webinar, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, is the huge range of styles and how you have to choose the paper and the pencils based on the style that you want. And that goes to the pencils too, because some pencils are soft and some are medium and some are hard. And so it depends on what you're drawing. So if you're trying to get that painterly look, you might want to layer soft color upon soft color upon soft color, so it melds and it looks like paint. But if you
Uh-huh.
want to do whiskers, you don't want a soft pencil because it's going to break all the time. So you
Right.
got to switch to a hard lead. and then sometimes you're choosing a pencil based on what color it is, just because you would like it to be a hard pencil, but it isn't, but it's the only color out there that is the color that you need. And
Right.
so there isn't one answer. I remember recently when somebody asked me, she was just angry at me because I wouldn't give her one answer. And I was like, well, I can't. What are you drawing and what effect do you want? And there's even a drawing that I did recently of a cat on black paper, and I used 4 different brands of pencils for that one drawing. So you can't say always use this brand, always use this paper, always use these pencils. But the good news is, when I do projects, I tell people exactly the paper to use, exactly the pencil to use, and how to layer it, and what sequence to layer it in, and all of that. And that's where that studying with the mastery comes in, because then you don't have to figure it out yourself.
Right. Let me see if I can pull up one of those that you did that's in that painterly approach that you were talking about. So here is one that you called Turn Better.
Yes, this is by Barbara Edidin. And she was one of the people who kind of sold me on colored pencil, because she was doing this stunning photorealistic work, and her work was in Scottsdale and New York, a prestigious gallery. She was getting tens of thousands of dollars, and this was 25 years ago for her work. So she was showing that colored pencil can hold its own with an oil paint or acrylic, because a lot of people thought pencils were for kids. And there really wasn't much in the way of books or videos or anything about it in those days. But Barbara was just doing jaw-dropping work. And she's using a white paper here, and she's using a soft lead. But the reason that this piece looks so amazing is she does what the old masters in Europe did, and that is she began with a grisaille, which means she did a full, gray piece, so that she did the whole piece first in black and white, and then she did the color on top of it, and that's why it's so full-bodied.
So was the black and white grisaille underneath done with a really hard pencil, and then the color part was done with a soft pencil?
No, she actually used the same soft pencils for the underpainting as she did for the final piece as well. Yeah. So it's very surprising. And in those days, Prismacolor was the premier pencil, and there really wasn't much competition. So that's what she was using. But ideally, like you guessed, it would be easier to do it with a harder lead and then put the soft lead on top. But in those days, there just wasn't much available. In fact, when I first started working with colored pencil, there were only 72 colors available. Now there's sets with 150, and I was actually hired by Derwent to introduce the 120 set. They went from 72 to 120. And I helped them go from 36 to 72 watercolor pencils, but there just wasn't much available. But you can't tell it from looking at her work. I mean,
No, you really can't. It's stunning. It's stunning.
Yeah.
Let me pull up one more, and you can tell us a little bit more about that one too. Go back and forth here to share. I think the next one that I had up, oops, I'm scooching back and forth between programs. And the next one up is Tiger. And I think that one's by Helen Jenkins. Let me see if I can share that one. Here we go.
Yeah, you can see in this one, it's more impressionistic.
Yeah.
Now, Helen was actually a hotel painter. She used to paint a lot of original paintings for very prestigious hotels. And then she was having problems with the toxicity in the oils. And she decided to give up her oils and go to pencil. But she was a palette knife user, and she wasn't used to the tiny little pencils. So when she moved into colored pencils, she started combining pencils with the art sticks. There are some exact same wax colors available in a stick format, almost like a Conte.
Right.
And so she combined both the stick and the pencil. So she's using the pencil for those precise whiskers and everywhere she needs little details, but then she uses the sticks to get that more impressionist look. And that's what I like to show, is that there isn't just one style. This isn't just for realists. This is for a lot of different kind of artists. You can apply it whether you're an architect or a greeting card artist, or you're a painter, or whether you're an
Right.
airbrush artist. You can use pencils for so many different styles.
Yeah, you really can. Tell me a little bit more about using colored paper. And I think that the one here is Tam. And I'm not sure who the
Yeah,
artist is for
this
that
is
one. Can you?
Thomas Thayer. Thomas
Yeah.
Thayer. And when I hired him to do a workshop for my International Colored Pencil College, he said to me, just kind of whispered privately, he was kind of a quiet guy, a welder of all things. And he whispered to me, he says, you know, when there's a show and people walk in the room, I want them to see my art first. And so he used a dark paper because it makes his subject just pop off the paper.
Right.
And you can use colored papers for a variety of reasons. Sometimes people will choose it because it's the dominant hue. And so it saves a lot of time because the paper furnishes a lot of the color for you. Or sometimes you use it for drama like this right here. And so again, you're choosing your colored paper based on what effect you want. Like he wanted drama. You can also use a black paper for very subtle effects. A black dog on a black paper can look very, very subtle. I did a monkey when I taught at the safari park. I did a black monkey on black paper, and it was very exciting. So again, you're going to choose. One of the things that's a very common mistake is that there are some amateurs out there who are just self-taught and they haven't really studied colored pencil. So they're all saying you always use white pencils, white paper, and you always use this pencil.
Right.
And so that just doesn't work. And so when you explore all the range, the masters, the people who are pulling in good money, they're using a huge range of styles and a range of papers and a range of different papers, and sometimes even more than one pencil brand in that particular drawing.
Right, right. That makes a lot of sense. Tell me a little bit. Let me pull up this next one. This next one is Rodeo Series, and it's one where you're really emphasizing the drawing aspect of it. I think it's the one that I used for the presentation. Here it is. Of course, you know, I'm a horse fanatic, so
yeah.
Can you see it there?
Yes, I can.
Excellent.
This is by Bruce Nelson. He passed away at 93 years old.
Oh, wow.
And he was just an amazing colored pencil artist, but he liked to make it look like a drawing. So you can see in most of the others, and especially the first two, it looked more like a painting, but he wanted the paper to show. So he was working on white, and it's a lot harder. You'll take at least twice as long to do any drawing if you draw on white, because you have to layer so many colors. But he loved to draw on white, and he was an engineer, and he loved detail. And so it didn't bother him that it took twice as long because he enjoyed the journey. And so he didn't mind that it would take him layers upon layers upon layers by working on a white paper. And he accomplished so many. I think he lived until 93 because he wasn't finished with all his art. And he did so many pieces, you can't even believe it, considering how meticulous he was. It was absolutely amazing. And sometimes when you're working on white, there's other pencil artists that have worked on white, and they don't let the white paper show. They actually do a collage of watercolor, swatches. So it's almost like they're creating collage of colored papers because one color of paper wouldn't work. Right. So they're creating a little colored ground for each area that they're going to layer over. And again, that technique actually saves you a lot of time on white.
I can see how it would. So we'll definitely look at that, I think, even further, because on Thursday, for those who don't know, we're going to be back on at the same time, same place, a little different link. I'll be sending that out to talk about how you can combine some approaches with pencil that I think is really going to appeal to a lot of people, because there's way more you can do with colored pencil than people realize. And I know that you have an upcoming challenge
Yes.
that's going to be starting soon. So could you tell our viewers a little bit more about that challenge?
Yes, I will. So when I was doing the International Colored Pencil Symposium, I did it for 11 years, and I would bring 5 masters every year to show their techniques. And I gathered this huge library of knowledge so that instead of studying with all the different masters, you could gather all that knowledge in one place. And so I put that into something called Colored Pencil College. And just before I launch it once a year, but for 10 days before I launch it, I like to give you a sneak peek. And so I go on my Facebook page and I show you about techniques and how to do corrections and how to choose the right paper. And I give you a whole bunch of really cool free stuff because I want you to see what's possible. And then you can put your work up there too so that you get critiques. You know, like you can ask questions. What am I doing wrong? And how should I correct this? And we even have a few people send in their art in the mail, and then I'll actually do live corrections during that time. So it's a 10-day challenge, and it starts this Wednesday, March 6th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then I'll be appearing on my Facebook page at 10 a.m. every day for 10 days, starting on March 6th. So
Very
every
cool.
single day at 10 days, for 10 days, I'll be there. And it's all recorded if you can't come live.
Excellent. Excellent. We'll be sure to include the link in the description. And also I want to remind everybody that you have a webinar coming up as well. And I believe that's on the 9th, isn't it?
Yes, I put it right in the middle, in the middle of the challenge. So you get a chance to see what all the possibilities are. And the webinar is kind of condensing everything that's in those 10 days into one session. And I basically, during the webinar, I'm going to show you how masters do things differently. And then I'm going to give you their quick and easy shortcuts so that you can become a master without those agonizing mistakes. So I'll be showing you how to choose the right papers, how to choose the right pencils, how to choose the right method. And then something other people don't think of is how to use color theory in order to layer properly so that it looks super amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic. So make sure, everybody, that you join us again on Thursday. Sandra, thank you so much for being with us today. And we'll be diving in again to talk more about colored pencil then. So hang tight. Stay with us for Thursday for round 2. Thanks again,
Bye-bye.
Sandra. Bye-bye for now.
See you soon.